Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 253 of the MTG Goldfish podcast. I'm Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and we have a small crew this week. Richard couldn't be here. He's out at the Grand Canyon or something, doing fun things. So that means it is just me and Crim today, probably better known as the Asian Avenger. What's going on today, Crim?
How's it going, Seth? Yeah, we're gonna have to hold it down without Richard's spiky, double mythic.
Yeah, I didn't realize Richard was like crushing it on Arena. He like sent us that picture over the weekend where he was like top 200 or 300 in limited and like mythic 98% in constructed. So apparently, among finding time among going to like the Grand Canyon, doing all this fun stuff, Richard is also just like crushing Magic Arena in all formats. So
yeah, when he's not farming all of us on Arena, he's in the Grand Canyon. So
anyway, our plan for today, we're going to be jumping around, I think. We got a few different topics we wanted to hit on. Secret Lairs. Last week we talked about what they were, but we actually know what cards are in them now and like the actual drops. So we're going to talk about Secret Lairs a bit. Want to talk a little bit about the release of the GP schedule for the first part of 2020, along with what it means for Paper Standard. And then Pioneer, Modern, a couple of other formats we've been playing or maybe not playing. Want to hit on those and then answer some fish mail, of course. So that's kind of the plan for today. But before we jump into all that sweet stuff, a reminder that our show today is brought to you by Spikes Academy. And today they are having a Cyber Monday sale at their apparel store. They have lots of really cool t-shirts and hoodies with Magic related themes. And you can check out their store over at spikesacademy.myshopify.com and enjoy a 20% discount today for the Cyber Monday sale. So thank you so much to Spikes Academy for supporting the show. And on that note, let's talk a bit about Magic. Let's start with kind of a fun topic, Crim. Secret Lair. So you actually got to reveal one of these. You were one of the chosen content creators to show off one of them. What was your Secret Lair? And then what were the rest of them about?
So the one I got to reveal was the Seeing Visions one, which was, Serum Visions. And I was actually this product is a product that I think is like something that I really enjoy just because I love promos. And as we were talking about this a little bit earlier, I love mixing and matching all my cards. So, for some, I noticed that like some people, they wanted it. So like maybe it was a play set of one artwork, right? But for me, it's like example, I got 4 different Serum Visions arts and I loved it because my favorite thing about Magic is celebrating the art of Magic and having multiple like having every different artwork of 4 different Serum Visions in a deck is something that I love. Yes, I think that like shaves according to that shaves a few percentages, because if your opponent goes Thoughtseize and looks at your hand, they need to write down which art it is or memorize which art you have, and then you cast a different Serum Visions, they'll know you have a different card. Or you still
honestly
have the other card.
Yes, you are correct, and I've said the same thing before. But in reality, it's such a small thing.
Yeah.
I don't think it's not like you're going to be on track to win a Grand Prix or something, and then because you're playing mismatched art, you are like, oh no, all of a sudden I'm X and 5 and I'm out of the tournament. It's
if only I didn't
tiny
have
thing.
Yeah, exactly, and that's why I don't care, right? I'm like, whatever. But I guess I'm the casual now, I guess.
You've replaced Richard this week in the casual seat. I do have to say, I think you got to reveal my favorite of the Secret Lair drops. We need more psychedelic art in Magic, I think. The art on those Serum Visions is so insane. I love that style of art anyway, even outside of Magic, and seeing it on Magic cards is really cool. And the art on pretty much all the drops, I think, is really unique and really cool. But Serum Visions and the psychedelic Serum Vision art is just so sweet.
Yeah, I think my 2 favorites, and not because I reveal it, but the Serum Visions one and the Bitter Blossom one were my favorite. I know the Bitter Blossom one got a lot of got a response, you know what I mean, from the internet, but because really it's just a Bitter Blossom and 4 tokens, but the tokens are absolutely gorgeous, and I don't know, I am a huge fan of it. I love that Bitter Blossom one, and
I think I called that during last week's podcast too. That was like my prediction. Like maybe it's just a bitter blossom and some tokens, and that's exactly what it ended up being. So let's run through these drops real quick for people and just kind of give like a short review of the various drops. So first, of course, starting I guess when this podcast is live, you'll be able to do it for the next 20-ish hours or so. You can buy all the drops for $200. So if you want most of them, you can do that today. Just pick up all of them. But as far as the individual drops, we mentioned Bitter Blossom Dreams. Bitter Blossom, 4 tokens, all with different art. This one, Crim, is one of the ones I think you said you were most excited about.
Because I absolutely love the full art, the full art look on the Bitter Blossom. Cause we have the Modern Masters or Ultimate Masters art. You have the box topper, but I also like this because it has like the game day promos. Like, you know what I mean? If you top 8 a game day, that whole border, and the 4 tokens are just absolutely gorgeous together. Like if you sit everything side by side, it like forms one gigantic picture that I'm really a huge fan of.
Yeah, I think Bitter Blossom it's definitely sweet. It's definitely, for me, was one of the most jarring drops because, as you mentioned, it's kind of basically Wizards just like selling people a Bitter Blossom for the most part, which is I don't think it's like a bad thing necessarily. I guess like there's some questions like what it means for local game stores. Like why would you buy a Bitter Blossom from your local game store if you can just buy one for Wizards? And this one is actually a little bit cheaper, I think, than the going price for a Bitter Blossom if you're in the market for Bitter Blossoms. It's this is one of the $30 drops, and I think the cheapest Bitter Blossom that was already in existence was like $35 or $37, the Ultimate Masters one, I think. So if you want Bitter Blossoms, it's definitely a good deal. What do you think about the LGS aspect, Crim? Is that like a concern that your LGS has a bunch of Bitter Blossoms they bought presumably to like sell to players and now people are just going to buy them from Wizards? Or is that kind of like overblown, that concern, you think?
If we're talking about specifically Bitter Blossom, I don't think it was like people were just going to like come falling through the ceiling to buy Bitter Blossom, but I do understand the concern about it, right? Like, like support your LGS. So it is a little bit of a concern because, it depends how often this becomes a thing, right? Like, I mean, like if this is just like, every single card, like Wizards actually just starts selling singles, then yeah, that's different, right? But, I don't think Secret Lair is a concern at all to me. If through my eyes, I don't think it's a concern for LGSs because these are just promos of random cards. Like, as I had mentioned, I don't think everyone's rushing to buy Bitter Blossom. Wizards isn't really just going to start selling singles out of nowhere, right? So,
and I guess, I mean, as far as we know, they're time limited to 24 hours. So that should hopefully limit supply to some extent. I don't think it's ever been like explicitly stated that they won't do the drops again at some point in the future. Like you could do like, I don't know, Secret Lair Masters where you like jam them all together into a booster product. I don't know if they've ever like promised that they would never be reprinted this way again, but it seems like the idea is they will be somewhat limited in supply just by the fact that they're only for sale for a short period of time.
Yeah. And like it is the only thing that is like I also feel it is a little unfortunate. Like example, it's the holiday season, right? So usually around the holiday season, I think it'd be pretty cool for LGSs to have some kind of sweet limited product to sell, right? And so it is a bummer that, there won't be something like this for the LGSs currently, unless something comes out in the next week or so that we don't know about. So, I mean, that is the bummer.
Also, speaking of the timing is like a little strange to me. Like, I think that Secret Lair is a really cool idea, but they couldn't really guarantee shipping in time for the holidays. Plus, they're selling them why people are like spending their money to buy holiday presents for people where people might not have like as much, I don't know, disposable income as they normally would because they're spending on holiday gifts, but these aren't guaranteed holiday gifts because I couldn't guarantee they were going to be there in time. So I kind of wish they had like put them for sale, I don't know, like a month ago or something maybe, where you would get them in time for the holidays and be able to like get them as gifts for people potentially. So I think like the timing aspect is a little strange. I was pretty surprised when they were like, oh, well, you might get them for the holidays, but we can't actually like promise that. I was like, ew, that's a little weird because I could definitely imagine this being a really cool, like, Christmas gift or, like, stocking stuffer or whatever, like, holiday present for your, like, Magic playing kid or whatever, friend or something. But they kind of missed the mark on that aspect a little bit.
I get it. You know, like, yeah, I would love to have this by like Christmas morning, but at the same time, I think it's pretty cool that we're going to have it, right? Like, cause like the whole thing is like, yeah, it's like being sold in a way where you have 24-hour windows to grab it, but in those 24 hours, you know what I mean? Like, you're guaranteed to get one, as opposed to like not getting it and like the mythic editions and whatnot where you may not get it. You're sitting in this queue and then, you know, boom, sadness. Oh, they're all sold out. So
that part is super nice because I've been like going back and forth whether I want to get like all the drops or just a couple of them. And they went for sale. We're recording this at like noon and they went for sale at noon Eastern time. And I don't feel any like pressure to be like F5ing a Wizards page or like trying to hope that my whatever it doesn't crash when I'm putting my credit card number. I'm just like, if I want one, like I can do the podcast, I can go do the stream. If I want one, I'll just like hop on later tonight and, you know, get one. Like no big deal. So I really like that it doesn't have that that pressure that we've seen with like some of the other products sold directly from Wizards.
Exactly.
Anyway, drop number 2, tomorrow's drop, Eldraine Wonderland 5 promo snow-covered foil basic lands. One of each basic land. I think the art's really cool on these. Value-wise, I'm a little bit like, man, like if you want, I don't know, it's a pretty niche market, I think, where you need to want snow-covered basic lands for one thing, and then you're not really getting a huge savings compared to getting like other snow-covered basics like the Modern Horizons. It's roughly the same price, so I guess you get these because the art is really cool. What do you think of this drop, Crim?
This is just strictly for the art, right? Like you're a promo, like as I said, this is really marketed towards the people that love their promos, their premium cards, if you would, and like like I think. If you look into that and like example, at GPs, I'm trying to remember, how you would get like just for playing in events or the main event, you would get a promo land pack. Yeah. People were buying the promo land packs for what is around this price anyways, right? So like, or at least at like GPs and stuff. So like this is kind of like the same price, but with snow covered lands. So, I mean, obviously the prices on the land packs dropped as more GPs happened, but like, you know what I mean? Like there aren't going to be like a ton of like 1,000 GPs, at least to our knowledge, that's giving out these Eldraine Wonderland drops, right? For a land pack. Yeah. So if that's the case, people are already paying $30 for those land packs.
The only other thing I would say about this one is for normal people, non-Crim people who want their cards to look nice and matching, I don't know what you do with one copy of each snow-covered basic land. I guess you could buy, like, multiples of them. I wish with this drop, I think I would say, with basic lands, one thing I learned from Magic Online, where Magic Online, most of the bots have a limit of 4 cards. Yeah. You can't buy more than 4 copies of a card, but they make exceptions for basic lands, so you can get enough of the same basic to actually, like, play a deck. If they do basic land drops again in the future, I would love to see them have the limit be, like, 20 maybe, or, like, 25. So if you really wanted to be like, I'm going to play a monocolor deck with each of these lands and I want all my arts to match, that you could just buy them and do that. So I think that would be something to consider for future basic land drops when we return to Secret Lair in the future. Yeah,
definitely. Like I know I have tons of friends that are like that too, where like, you know, you have, they pretty much want to throw my deck against the wall. I think that's one of the most humorous things ever. Like so like Paul Cheon used to be in the area, right? And I remember one time I let him borrow my deck, and I had all mismatched lands in my blue-black control deck, and Paul just like looks back at me. He's like, Can I borrow someone else's blue-black deck?
Crim. You just have that effect on people when you're playing Commander, when you're building decks.
Oh yeah.
You're always the arch enemy. All right, next drop, Restless in Peace. This is the Dredge card drop, Life from the Lobe, Go Gary Thug, Bloodghast. Yeah, I mean, I guess if you're a Dredge player and want these cards, I like how the art is panoramic when you put them all together, and they did that with a couple of different drops. So I think it's a really cool idea to have like the panoramic art. The art looks good. I mean, the cards are fine. It's a little weird because they're not in Pioneer, and they're not really played in Modern much anymore, so I'm not sure. Maybe like Legacy Dredge players is the main market. I don't really see them in Commander much either, so I'm not sure exactly like who's buying Dredge cards at the moment, but they do look really cool.
I did. Loam and Bloodghast are actually, I think, they're in a decent amount of graveyard decks, I think.
They were probably designing this back around when Hogak was a thing.
Yeah.
And back then, Bloodghast and Loam of those cards were like through the roof in Modern at one point.
Yeah. Like these cards are like, there's still a few Life from the Loam decks in Modern, but I mean, you know, whatever, like the Sultai Crab deck or whatever.
Yeah.
Like there's those decks, but yeah, like this to me, I only knew what I had, right? So the Serum Visions, I didn't know what everyone else had and what came with all that. So when I heard Restless in Peace get like mentioned as a title for one of the drops, I thought it was going to be literally just Rest in Peace. But like,
that's what I was thinking too. And maybe like another like Stony Silence or like white sideboard cards, something like that.
Yeah. Like I thought it was that. So I was like, ho, I gotta get that. But as somebody that doesn't play graveyard decks in EDH or, like, you know, that in Modern, I just want it because it's the art. The promo art is just cool to me. And like you had mentioned, it's panoramic.
We already talked about the next one, which was the Seeing Visions drop, the 4 Serum Visions. The art, literally some of my favorite art in all of Magic. Not just from the Secret Lairs, like, I just love the art on these cards, so I think that's a win just from that perspective. Then we had Goblins, the Goblin drop, Explosion Sounds. I mean, if you're a Goblins player, I like the style of the art on them. The Goblins are a little so-so, but they look really cool.
Yeah. It kind of reminds me of like children's book arts. I'm trying to remember exactly which one.
That's what almost like children's book or like Pixar almost, like something childish sort of.
Yeah. But I like it. It's like definitely this is one of the cooler releases for me, because I really do like just that they pulled artists from outside of Magic, so it's not like your usual. You wouldn't normally see some of this, right? Like obviously when I look at like these Goblins, they don't fit in with the rest of Magic's art, right? So that's why I'm a fan of it.
Kind of would have liked to see like maybe a Goblin guide or something a little bit like, I think the only thing I would say about this is these Goblins aren't super constructed playable. I guess like Bushwhacker sees play in some Modern decks. Lackey sees play in Legacy, but Legacy is kind of like a niche audience at this point. So I think maybe you could have used one more constructed push Goblin, but still, the art is definitely interesting.
Yeah, like a Rabble Master even.
Yeah, Rabble Master, something like that would be sweet. Well, our next one, Kaleidoscope Killers. I think this is the best Commander drop. You just get 3 5-color legends, Ur-Dragon, Sliver Overlord, Reaper King. Also one of the most valuable drops if you just compare it to like the pre-existing price of these cards. I think Sliver Overlord by itself was like $35 or something. So you're definitely getting your money's worth. And if you're a Commander player, you're getting really sweet art. I think Reaper King, I'm pretty sure, doesn't have any art except for its original printing. The Ur-Dragon just has its Commander printing. So these are cards that don't already have like a bunch of different art options out there. So that's a kind of another cool upside of this drop, I think.
Yeah, now there is the Judge promo or whatever the promo is for Sliver Overlord, but I really like this artwork. Like this artwork for Sliver Overlord is just the most gorgeous one, and I love the colors on it, so really want to get a copy of that.
And then finally, the first one, I think we actually talked about this one last week, because this is the one that Wizards announced, the OMG Kitties. One of the least valuable of the drops, I think, but if you're a cat fan, like this is still something that's definitely going to be, I think, popular for people that either just love cats or have like a cat commander deck. Most of the cats are cats that you would play in your commander deck. I think even the ones that look a little bad, like Quasali Slingers, that's actually like a super legit card if you're playing cat commander.
Yeah. Yeah, correct. I mean, like, I know that a few of my friends who just absolutely love cats and whatnot are just picking this up. It's like the artwork is pretty cute. I am a fan of how cute these cats are. So yeah, this is for all the cat lovers out there in Magic. This is it. This is for you.
And I think the other thing I think that maybe has been missed about this is some of them, at least Quasali Singers, is first time in foil. So if you want foils for your commander deck, this is the only version that's in foil at the moment, I believe.
I have no idea, actually. I think you're right. This might actually be the only one.
So that might actually increase the value a little bit compared to what people are thinking at the moment, just because some people want fully foiled commander decks, or as much foiled as possible. So
yep.
Anyway, Crim, before we move on, which we should, are you ordering Secret Lair?
Yes. I definitely want all of them. I want all of them. Like, I just really like promos, so I love the packaging on it too. And so I think it's just a sweet little drop. I'm a promo collector and a promo lover, so I will always love this kind of stuff.
It sounds like the perfect Crim product. Plus, it lets you mismatch your cards a little bit more with different arts. So
the more I can mix and match, the better. So
I'm still thinking about it. Like I said, I like that there's not a big rush to get it right now at noon, because I can get it anytime in the next 24 hours. So still making up my mind. I think I'll probably get a couple of them at least. I really like, as I said, the Serum Vision one, and I kind of want the 5-color Legend one for Commander. So I think I'm at least going to snag a couple of individual ones. Not 100% sure if I'm going to go for the full package or not, but I have time to figure it out thanks to this new system.
It feels so nice. It feels great that I didn't have to also wake up like 30 minutes before this goes up and like refresh all morning long.
Plus, I have like very bad luck with actually getting stuff, even when I try to under the old system. Like, I would think that it was working, but then it wouldn't, and I don't know. So I definitely like this new system much better than the old system. If Wizards is going to sell stuff directly, this is way more optimal than the mad rush of everyone that crashes the website in like a 5-minute period.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
All right, so let's move on from the world of Secret Lairs. We had an announcement from Channel Fireball talking about the formats of Grand Prix, or Magic Fest, I guess, at the start of 2020. The first, I think, 4-ish months of 2020 are covered. Did you see this announcement, Crim?
Yes, I did.
What kind of stuck out to you about it? Was there anything in specific that jumped off the page?
Well, for me, the things that stuck out were just Pioneer.
Yes.
The change in some of the formats so that you can have Players Tour qualifiers for Pioneer. Because I have been playing a ton of Pioneer online. I have been digging up old cards that I never thought I'd get to play again to just build Pioneer decks. So
yeah, I have also been playing a ton of Pioneer, and it's cool to see it getting more support. Also, as far as the main events, there's a lot of Pioneer support. I think if you just look at the formats of the Grand Prix, I think there's, unless I'm miscounting, I think it's 5 Modern, 5 Pioneer, 2 Standard, and then a couple of random limited GPs thrown in. So definitely getting a lot of support at the Grand Prix level in the first half of 2020, which I'm super excited for. Like, oh man, I hope they cover some of them, because I would really really enjoy watching Pioneer tournaments. So fingers crossed that maybe we get some coverage of at least some of the Pioneer Grand Prix. The other thing that jumped out to me is 2 standard GPs over a 4-month period, and this is a period where we have a set release. I think Theros Beyond Death releases middle of January, like January 17th or something. Yeah. There's not a standard Grand Prix until the second week of March 7th and 8th. So there's not actually any official Wizards Grand Prix standard tournament for 6 weeks or so after the standard set release. What do you think about paper standard, Crim? Is this a sign that, I don't know, standard is, I don't want to say dying, but is standard kind of shifting more towards arena and away from the Magic Fest Grand Prix paper scene?
That's kind of how I looked at it, as everything is kind of standard wise is going to move what looks to be online, right? Because you have MCQWs, you have all as your competitive thing, and you have the ladder. You can get your competitive fix online. So it's all the other formats that we don't have stuff for. So that's why I'm actually A-okay with that, right? Because it's not like, unless the standard Grand Prix is in my backyard, I'm probably not going to go to it, right?
Yeah, I would much rather, as far as someone like watching coverage, or keeping up on coverage, I would much prefer Pioneer and Modern, myself as well. So I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, but it seems like a shift compared to what we've seen before, where usually Standard was the most popular format for GPs, as far as like the number of GPs. For a long time, Standard got the most, and then it was kind of Standard and Modern roughly equal. And now it feels like we're reaching a shift where maybe the big paper tournaments are focused on Pioneer and Modern, and then Standard's going to be the arena format for the most part, which I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. It's just a different thing, I think, compared to where we were not that long ago, like just a few years ago.
Yeah, like a few years ago, there wasn't as like, cause like now with Twitch and like streaming and like, you know, arena, we have a lot of Standard, right? Exposure to Standard. Before we didn't really, I mean, we did, but like not nearly to the level we do now, right? So I'm okay with it not being Standard. Actually, I'd much prefer it not be Standard.
Yeah, and I think it's probably a decent thing for attendance. People seem extremely hyped for Pioneer at the moment, so I think capitalizing on this hype with doing like all these PTQs, doing a bunch of main events in Pioneer, I expect to see some really good attendance and like exciting stuff going on at the Pioneer GPs.
Yeah, I'm also excited to see what Pioneer looks like by the time these GPs hit. Like how, cause like, you know, cause like the bannings will have happened, or there's going to be more BNR. So I'm excited to just see what happens when like where Standard is, Pioneer is.
Speaking of where Pioneer, Crim, I think that's a really good segue into our next topic, which is Pioneer. We've had PTQ week for Pioneer on Magic Online. I think there were, I want to say 8. I know there was at least one every day for the past week. All Pioneer, tons and tons of PTQs. Have you seen these results, Crim? And where is Pioneer at right now? What do you make of this big PTQ decklist dump?
Well, as of right now, with every decklist so far, it's just mono black, just like in the lead by a landslide, I think, and then like, you know, Field of the Dead decks. I don't know. You can choose your variant of it, like Sultai, Golgari. I mean, there's even one recently, like it's just like Golgari, like yeah, lands. You have you have the Scape Shift version, in Sultai, where you know, they have Scape Shift, they have like the blue for the counter magic and whatnot too. Like it's just, let's just call it Field of the Dead in mono black. That's legitimately what a chunk of it is. And then there's Simic aggro. There's other aggro decks, the Rakdos aggro decks that kind of look a little bit like the Rakdos mid-range deck, or whatever you want to call it, Rakdos aggro from Amonkhet. So like there's still a whole lot, even with how much mono black there is, which is like, I think like right now, like what, 13% of the meta or something like that. I still run into a lot of different decks.
Yeah, there's still definitely, I think the format really at the top tiers is more or less like Smuggler's Copter versus Field of the Dead. If you're going to try to like simplify things into like one sentence, I think that's basically where Pioneer is at the moment. But you are right. There are variations within those decks with Smuggler's Copter decks. Mono Black's a big one, but Gruul aggro has put up quite a few results recently. That's been another like big Smuggler's Copter deck. And then there's a lot of variation within the Field of the Dead decks. Some of them are just almost like fair mid-range decks. Some of the Golgari builds, they're not even like that much of ramp decks. They're more just like playing their Thought Seizes and whatever, Abrupt Decays, Assassin's Trophies, with a little bit of ramp with like Hour of Promise and stuff, and knowing that Field of the Dead will win the late game. And then you have like dedicated, almost like the standard decks, where you're like Abriel Grazer, Grow Spiral, ramp, try to get as many Field of the Deads as quickly as possible and win really fast. So there is variation within them. And then there still are a bunch of other decks. Do you think, we have a BNR today, it's Monday, BNR will probably be coming out right about when this podcast goes live. Do you have any predictions? We've had no changes the last 2 weeks. Do you think this is a week where we're going to see some changes to the format?
I hope we see Field of the Dead leave. That like will it happen? I think, my guess is yes, there will be something today. I think Field of the Dead should be one of them. And I think Nexus is the other thing. I know that seems weird, but like Nexus is still a thing that I run into online. And I think that it's just a miserable thing to play against. And it's not even that far down the list of like popular decks, by the way. Like Nexus is still there.
That's true. I mean, it's definitely not mono black aggro level or Field of Dead level, but it is a legitimate deck, and it is a very obnoxious card. So I'm fine with Nexus getting banned. What do you think about Copter? I think for me, Field of the Dead is one of the most likely ones. I also think, like, if you look at the numbers on Smuggler's Copter, like a month ago it was at like 22% of the meta. And if you look at these PTQs, it was up to like 43% of the meta through the like top 30 decks, 32 decks of these PTQs. And some of them, it was like 57, 58% of the top 32 decks, individual PTQs. Do you think we've reached a point where Copter is on the chopping block potentially?
See, this is one of the things that I was like, okay, I understand Copter is everywhere right now, right? And like, it kind of makes it so if you're playing any deck with a single creature, like with creatures in it, there's just 4 auto includes, which is Copter, right? Because Copter's not even legendary. So like, yes, Copter is very good, but I feel like if Copter goes, what does aggro have?
So do you think if Copter got banned, do you think like Mono Black is just done? Or like Gruul aggro? Do you think those decks are reliant on Copter to be competitive? Or do you think you could just play the next best 2-drop or whatever and still keep on trucking with these aggro decks?
The next best 2-drop is still landslides away from where Copter is, right? Because
that's definitely true.
I just think that the reason why Copter is so good for aggro decks is because first off, it's like Mutavault. It gives you something that's like sweeper proof. Because I'm not gonna like animate it like in response to like a Supreme Verdict or something, right? So like hopefully not. But yeah, like that's why I like it, and it gives like aggro decks a way to sculpt their hand. You're getting flooded out. Well, that's fine. I can hold this land and then pitch it to keep some kind of actual spell. So I like it because it just gives aggro the staying power. But if you chop that out of mono black, if all I'm worried about is Mutavault, then that's fine, right? Because of Copter, it forces us to really have instant speed removal. And it, like, yes, when you combine Copter and like, you know, with things like in vehicles with like things like 3 Fairy and like Thoughtseize, it gets much harder to remove something like a Copter and a Mutavault. And now if Mono Black loses Copter, all they have is Mutavault. So all I need to do is just like cast Cry of the Carnarium. And that pretty much ends the game.
Oh man, that's a tough one. I'm kind of more I think that I'm fine with just banning Field of the Dead and maybe something like, I still think Once Upon a Time probably is just like too good and should go. I think Nexus, I'm fine with that. Oko, I think is like hovering somewhere in the conversation. But I'm fine with banning Field of the Dead as the primary target and seeing what happens. I've seen an argument from some people that part of the reason why Gruul and Mono Black are dominating so much right now is because they're the decks that can actually beat or hopefully beat the Field of the Dead decks. So maybe like if you ban Field of the Dead, then Control can handle the aggro decks because Control can't beat Field of the Dead. So maybe Control can handle the aggro decks and the metagame like evens out. So I'm okay with trying that for a week or two, but my guess is, based on what we saw in Standard with Copter and what we've seen so far in Pioneer, I would still be very surprised if Smuggler's Copter is a card that like is going to be long-term in the format. Like, I don't know. I don't think it's going to make it till the first Players Championship. I think it will still be very dominant, even if like Field of the Dead gets banned.
Yeah, if Field of the Dead gets banned, it'll still, like, the card will be a staple until it gets banned, right? Like, any deck is just going to play 4. If they can. It's just unless they print something better, which isn't good, but
hopefully we don't go that direction. I think the other challenge is like the removal in Pioneer does not line up very well with it. Like Black can kill it with Fatal Push for 1 mana, but outside of Fatal Push in Black decks, best case scenario, you're like breaking even mana wise with like a braid or a lightning strike or, whatever. Or worst case, you're trading down from 3 mana with like Murderous Rider or something like that. So I feel like that's part of the problem. Like, Smuggler's Copter is fine in Modern because white has Path to Exile, red has Lightning Bolt, black has Fatal Push. Basically, every deck can kill it for 1 mana. In Pioneer, most decks, and I think that's another reason why Mono Black is so big, is Mono Black is a color that can actually kill a Smuggler's Copter for 1 mana when no one else can. And when you look at white in specific, they have like Declaration in Stone, Blessed Alliance. Like, the white removal is really, really bad against Smuggler's Copter type threats in the format.
Yeah. I mean, so that's what I mean. Like, blue-white doesn't really work. Like, blue-white folds. Blue-white control just folds to, like, Copter and Mutavault, right?
And you lose to Field of the Dead. You just get wrecked by literally everything.
Yeah, like, you just get super dunked on. And on top of that, they Thought Seize you. Both decks Thought Seize you. So, like, so I think that I understand the discussion for Copter being on the chopping block, though. It's not unwarranted, and it's definitely a very powerful card. But I just think that I'm in the camp where without it, aggro does lose a bit of power.
It'll be interesting to see. I think something's going to get banned today. I would be very surprised if this was another no ban announcement. I would say Field of the Dead is probably... Field of the Dead and Smuggler's Copter for me are like the 2 top tier cards, followed by Once Upon a Time, and then there's a bunch of, who knows, like, I wasn't actually expecting Veil of Summer to get banned, so maybe there's some, like, kind of oddball choice that we haven't been considering that Wizards can, like, see in their data where they get to see all the games everyone's played that makes sense. So I don't know. What about you, Crim? Any prediction before we move on from Pioneer?
Field is I think the main one that I think will most likely to be banned. Also, for those that are listening, we're like, I don't think, like, there's been some internet talk like, oh, well, like, why are we so ban crazy right now? But like this, specifically for this format is a ban list that, like, we knew they were gonna, like, aggressively ban from the beginning. Yeah.
I think if people want to be, feel that way about, like, Standard and other formats, that makes sense to me, but I feel like my take on Pioneer right now is Wizards, like, intentionally didn't ban anything other than fetch lands, but intentionally didn't ban anything. And this is like a beta test period essentially on Magic Online where people are supposed to be playing. Wizards gets to gather data. And I think Wizards actually, like, wants feedback about what people think should and shouldn't be banned based on their experience, with the idea being, like, by the time we get to the players tour events the start of the year, then we should be at, like, a normal time. So I don't think these, like, weekly discussions of Pioneer bannings, this isn't a long-term thing. This is a, like, next couple of months type thing, why we're going through this, like, beta testing period. So I don't think we're still going to be talking about this every single week, 6 months from now or whatever.
Yep, correct.
Anyway, one more format before we get to fish mail. Crim, back before Pioneer was a thing, we both played a lot of Modern. Have you been playing any Modern recently?
To be completely honest with you, I haven't touched Modern. Since Pioneer came out, I haven't touched Modern. I played a few leagues here and there. I lost on turn 3 pretty consistently. And then I just like, okay, I'm kind of just out of it.
I, too, have not really played much Modern lately since Pioneer became a thing. Since we had Pioneer and multiple standard bannings and rotation. So I just haven't really played Modern in like a couple months, which is weird for me because for a long time, I think Modern was the format I played most. Like, I played more Modern than Standard by far for, like, fun and for content. But I feel like in this probably, I don't know, is going to come across wrong, but in some ways, I think Pioneer is, like, made me like Modern less. And I think the reason is, the thing I love about Modern is the diversity and the fact it feels like you can play 100 different decks and be at least, like, semi-competitive. That's what I always enjoyed about Modern. Pioneer offers that same feeling where it feels like tons of things are possible. And in some sense, because it's so new, even more things are possible. Because you see, like, Possibility Storm being, like, a legit deck at some points and, like, weird off the wall stuff. But you also don't just die on turn 3, which is one of my least favorite parts about Modern is you have a lot of, like, Modern non-games where it's just like, oh, okay, you have your combo. Like, I don't have the right piece of interaction. You just Primeval Titan me on turn 3. Good game. I guess we go to the next one. That doesn't really happen in in Pioneer. So I feel like Pioneer offers a lot of what I loved about Modern, or still love about Modern, but without the parts of Modern that I dislike.
Yeah. The parts of Modern that I dislike are just like you had mentioned, just like I don't like dying to turn 3. On turn 3, and like I don't like, like there's just some things that are like an auto loss for you, right? Like even as even my control deck has this weird shot of beating a Field of the Dead deck, but like I don't, and like you had mentioned, there's enough power because like, we can play with like Dig, Treasure Cruise, things like that, right? So like the power level of almost every deck is pretty solid. And like, yeah, I don't know. And also there's no Veil of Summer. So in Pioneer.
I will also say, like, this isn't a knock about Modern, and I fully expect that I will play more Modern again in the future. I think the other reason that I am so Pioneer heavy right now is because Pioneer is fresh and new, and I love rotations, and this is like super rotation. It's a whole new format. This happens very infrequently, like never. When was the last time we had a new format officially supported? Going back to like Modern, back in like 2011 or something. It's been almost a decade. So I think a few months from now, I will probably play more Modern mixed in. Maybe the newness of Pioneer will wear off a little bit, and there'll be more of a mixture. But yeah, for now, it just, whenever I think about like firing up a Modern League, I'm just like, like I could try this cool new Pioneer deck, and that sounds like a better plan for the afternoon.
Yeah, and like you'll actually get to play that cool new Pioneer deck, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, playing Magic is one of the best parts about playing Magic.
Yeah. Playing Magic is pretty wild, It's pretty wild.
Oh, goodness. So anyway, do we have anything else we wanted to hit on, or should we do some fish mail?
Let's do some fish mail.
All right, let me do my Richard impression. So if you'd like your questions answered on fish mail, you can tag them #MTGFishmail. Also, you can tag me, Saffron Olive, or Richard, MTG Goldfish, and Crim, Asian Avenger. I don't know if you want actually fish mail tagging you, but still, Crim,
I don't.
You're going to get some.
It's also the Asian Avenger.
This
is relevant. This is relevant.
Yeah, who knows who you would be tagging if you just put Asian Avenger.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, send in your questions for next week. #MTGFishmail. But let's answer some questions. So first off, from Nathan 4069, with MC7 coming up, do you think there are too many Mythic Championships in a year? It makes the tournaments feel less special when it happens so many times in a year.
I still I like this many Mythic Championships because then we also get to see more competitive play. It makes up for, like, example, since we don't get a ton of GP coverage, we get to now, we can still watch some competitive play. And like, I'm excited because I just like what it all feeds into.
I do feel like there's been a lot of Mythic Championships in like the last month and a half. I feel like this specific time of year has been very Mythic Championship heavy. I don't know if it's a bad thing overall, but I wouldn't mind them being spaced out a little bit more. It feels like sometimes we go like 3 months with no Mythic Championship, and then we have like 2 months where we have 3 Mythic Championships. So maybe just spacing them out more. And we know that the Players Tour is starting next year, and that means sort of more Mythic Championships, because each Players Tour is actually like 3 different regional tournaments, and they're all going to have coverage. So I think we're going to, like, if you consider them to be Mythic Championship / Pro Tour level events, we're going to even more next year. There's going to be a lot of high level Magic next year.
Yeah. And because we'll have like the players, like the Rivals League, we'll have all of that.
Yeah, we'll still have like Arena Mythic Invitationals, we'll have Players Tour event, we'll have Players Tour Championship, we'll have the Rivals League. It's going to be definitely an interesting year next year for sure. Crim, this one's for you. From Random Keho at the Asian Avenger. Since you opened a Secret Lair box, the deck box itself, how does it feel? Will it be suitable for a commander deck or 2 60-card regular decks plus a sideboard?
So if like, a lot of people have been wondering about the deck, the box itself, and like if you're looking for something that you can, like, I don't know, go climbing with and like have it like be durable, and I don't know, like, you know what I mean? Because like it's not meant to like get thrown around. I don't think it's still a very nice deck box though, and it does. If you're asking about the quality of it, but if you're asking about how much it can actually fit, it fits 2 single sleeve commander decks, and it fit quite well, perfectly.
Wait, you fit 2 commander decks in it?
Yeah. I
wow,
fit
that's
2
actually okay, so that's even bigger than the viewer was asking. Like 2 commander decks, so you can easily fit 2 60 card decks with a sideboard then.
Correct. Now, if you're the kind of person that like quadruple sleeves, triple sleeves, or whatever, I can't speak to that, but I can tell you that right now my 2 single sleeve commander decks perfectly fit into the box.
Next up from Bithical, MTG Fishmail, sometimes you guys use instant speed removal on your opponent's draw step instead of on your turn when the opponent is tapped out, even against blue decks. Why? Isn't it more risky to let them untap? What are the conditions when it's better to do it on their draw step? Ooh, all right, Crim, give us some control wisdom.
Okay, so specifically, I will remove something that needs to be removed, like 110% needs to be removed. I will do it right away, right? I won't let them, but like, I won't wait until their turn to let a blue deck untap. But reasons why I would let them untap, especially on their draw step and all that, is because I want them, if they have something to do, I want them to use it on their next turn. Like, let's say if I'm trying to resolve a spell and I need them to tap out, right? Or I need them to spend some of their mana. So what I'll do is I'll wait until their turn, try to get them to use the counter spell or some way to protect it. And this way, on my turn, I can just try to slam a spell and get it to resolve. And And like, it's usually, and that's why it's like that's when it's better to do it on their draw step. When you're trying to force them to tap out, use their resources. Maybe they have some big spell that you know about, like let's say they have Primeval Titan and they're about to like windmill slam it. So you want them to use something to protect, I don't know, something of theirs on their turn before they can jam their bomb.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. Sometimes against control decks, you're actually not so much trying to remove the threat on the table. You're trying to use your removal spell almost like a thought seize for a counter spell, where you're trying to get your opponent to use their mana and their interaction during their turn. So in some situations, the card on the table isn't the actual battle that you're fighting. You're actually trying to fight what's in your opponent's hand, and that's when casting removal spells, instant speed removal spells during your opponent's turn makes sense. At the same time, there are also times when that is a very bad idea. Like if you're playing against an Infect style deck, or maybe like a Pummeler style deck in Pioneer, where you definitely want to kill it at the first opportunity possible, or else you risk losing to your opponent's like protection spells.
Yeah, like a Blossoming Defense, or like, I don't know, Brave the Elements or something like that.
Next up, from 11 Vicious, how do you feel about Wizards officially printing and selling singles with Secret Lairs? Second question, would Riftstone Portal getting a complete land cycle be too good in Standard nowadays? So we kind of already talked
Riftstone Portal right now.
We already talked a little bit about the Secret Lair aspect in singles. I think the conclusion we came to for the most part is it is a change, in my opinion, and but it's probably not a huge deal with this specific set of Secret Lairs. However, we'll see what the future holds. Like, if they had a Secret Lair drop that was a Mox Opal for $30 or something, I could see that having a pretty big impact on, like, local game stores. But I think with this specific group of Secret Lairs, it's a change, and it's worth noting, and I'm a little concerned about local game stores, but I don't think these actual drops are going to have a hugely detrimental impact on local game stores.
Agreed.
As far as Riftstone Portal, Grim, could it be in Standard, a cycle of them?
So Riftstone Portal, for those that don't know what it is, just like me, adds 1 colorless mana if you tap it, and then as long as Riftstone Portal is in your graveyard, lands you control have add green or white to your mana pool. Okay, so this I feel like can be a little, this like rewards decks that like throw a ton of cards away into their deck. Like I'm thinking, like, I don't know, let's just say Delirium for this case, or Dredge decks and things like that. Obviously, I don't think this is gonna be what I'm complaining about if I'm playing against a Dredge deck, but I do think that lands like this are, I don't know, I think it's too good. I think it's too good. I think what would make it ridiculous is if it had the type, right? Like then it'd be even better. But I don't know. I guess it's not too good, but I do think it's good. I think it's pretty good.
I think it's pretty good. I think I'd probably be fine with it. Like, the payoff is all your lands are a specific dual land, I guess, if you can get it into your graveyard. That doesn't seem overly broken to me, especially with there's some amount of risk. Like, if your plan is to go full in on this and get it in your graveyard and then your graveyard gets removed, maybe you just like can't cast any of your spells. So I don't know. I think it's probably close as far as power level to like on the borderline, but I would be fine with giving a cycle of those a shot in standard. I don't think it would like obviously break the format or anything.
I think the mana would be pretty good in whatever standard format that's in, right? Because what if I have a different one, right? Because like not just the Celestia one, like I also have, I don't know, the Simic one, and then I also have the Celestia one. So almost all my lands can just tap for whatever I want, right?
Okay, that's I guess that's a good point about the cycle. Maybe having a cycle of them would be more risky than I'm giving it credit for, because maybe everything is just like a painless city of brass if you build the right deck.
Correct. Like, and then all I need to do is like, I don't know, cast some kind of, something like, I don't know, something like a Satyr Wayfinder, right? And just like grab an actual land and throw these away.
Next question. MTG Warden. Hey guys, when Modern Horizon dropped, I asked if you were concerned if Modern was becoming Legacy Light. With Pioneer, it seems like you have changed your mind. Any thoughts on it?
Ew. What does Legacy Light mean, though? Right? Like, just like we just don't have Force of Will.
and dual lands, I guess. Some other like small changes. I think for me, I think I'm okay with Modern. I hope Modern becomes more of Legacy Light. I feel like getting more Legacy like Force of Will style cards might actually improve the format. So I think I'm okay with Legacy becoming more of a fringe format. Modern maybe taking Legacy's place is like the oldest, like heavily supported format, and maybe getting more Modern Horizon style reprints, Force of Will style cards, or even Wasteland and stuff, and then having Pioneer be the format of the people.
Yeah. I for the most part agree with what Seth said there.
Except for the Wasteland.
Yeah, no Wasteland. Please, no Wasteland in Modern. Okay, like, but I do think that like Modern can definitely just take the role, like Seth had mentioned, of being the Legacy format, and like where Legacy is now. It just needs a little bit, as weird as it sounds, it needs better answers. It needs a little bit better, a few more like solid answers, like Force or something to keep the ridiculously broken decks in check.
Yeah, that's what I think too. I think that would be Force of Negation was a good start, but unfortunately the way Modern works, there's a lot of like creature-based combo decks where the things that's killing you are like Vizier, Devoted Druid, or like Primeval Titans, and Force of Negation doesn't actually help there. So maybe like a Force of Will, Force of Negation, even if you kept you can only cast this during your opponent's turn clause, but just open it up to any spell, I think that would maybe go a long way. And
also to get around Cavern of Souls, don't counter it. Remove it off the stack.
That's why we need Wasteland, Crim.
No.
Then you can Wasteland the Cavern and counter your opponent's spell. You would be in heaven as a control player.
No, because then the person also can, that same person you're trying to counter out of the game can also Wasteland you. And then it just becomes a wasteland fest where everyone's going to blow up each other's lands.
Next question from E. Silvero. Pioneer didn't make Modern cheaper. It made non-playable Modern cards more expensive. Any thoughts?
I think just every card from Return to Ravnica forward has like gone up, right? I mean, Dig Through Times are worth things again. We've got just lots of cards that are worth things again. And the price of Magic, paper Magic, I feel like has gotten a bit pricier with Pioneer now being a format.
It has certainly made cards that weren't very playable more expensive. On the other hand, I do actually think that it has made Modern less expensive. I don't know how much it has reflected itself in deck prices. I would have to research that a little bit. But if you look at a lot of Modern staples, even right down to fetch lands. I was looking at fetch lands the other day. Since Pioneer was a thing, fetch lands, for example, like Scalding Tarn was up to $100 back in September. It's down to $80 now. And it hasn't had like a huge drop off the cliff, but it's been consistently losing a couple percent every single week. Mox Opal was 130. It's down to 99. Ether Vial was 40. It's down to 31. So I feel like almost across the board, modern staples have gotten cheaper. So I think it has made modern prices cheaper to some extent. Although it has also, like, overall, I think it's been outweighed by the fact that so many Pioneer cards shot up in price. And if you're trying to play both formats, you're going to have to spend a lot of money. But I do think modern cards in specific have come down because of Pioneer.
Like, there are cards that have, like you had mentioned, dropped in price. But I feel like now the overall price, because, like, you want to play both Pioneer and Modern, like, the overall amount of things that you're like spending money on is more to me.
If you want to play both formats, I think I would definitely agree with you. Yeah, because you're having to put out a pretty meaningful chunk of money to like build a Pioneer collection, most likely.
Yeah, I'll have to move my Monastery Mentors between decks, right? Because that card's expensive. Again,
from Gregory Emin, has anyone tried out the new MTG mobile game? As far as I can tell, it's Hearthstone with blockers. I have not tried the MTG mobile game. Crim, have you tried it out?
I didn't even know it came out, so no.
I think I saw like a article or something about it, but yeah, I don't think either of us have played it. We'll have to try to download it and give it a try and get back to you. But thank you so much for the question. Next question, Tyrannic Nero. Does anyone think Once Upon a Time would be balanced if the first time cast was just green instead of free?
I think if it were just green instead of a free, that would be a lot more balanced.
I think that would be one way to do it. I think that would definitely make it more balanced. I also think that maybe the ley line technique that we kind of talked about last week would improve it a lot, where if maybe, because 2 mana for Once Upon a Time is still a pretty reasonable price for what you're getting. If like hard casting it was maybe like 3 to 4 mana, and it was actually like actively bad if you had to cast it, then I think maybe having it be free would be okay, because at least you had some risk there. But casting it for free is insane. Casting it for 2 mana, it's still a very like on curve or maybe even a little bit above curve card when you have to pay 2 mana for it.
I don't think, like I don't think the card is bad casting it just for 2. So I do think that it being casted for free is absurd. So just make them pay anything. Like 1. Sure, make them pay 1. That's good.
Last question of the week from Real Tap Water. I've bought the Secret Lair bundle, but I only want a few cards. Should I sell singles or sealed product? Is it stupid to sell now, or should I hold on to them? And for how long? Ooh. All right, so my advice would be to wait. I think that these are cards that are likely to increase in value over the long term, because as far as we know, there's 24 hours worth of supply, and then unless something surprising happens, there's no more of those cards, those versions of the cards entering the ecosystem. So I feel like a couple of years from now, some of these have potential to be fairly expensive.
Yeah. I mean, I just don't like selling my cards. So I would always say hold on to it for as long as you can. Just like Seth had mentioned, it's like, like people have 24-hour windows to pick them up. So it just feels like something that's going to eventually go up in price if you're worried about it, like in its value.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you desperately need the money now, the prices probably are fine. As far as should you sell singles or sealed product, I don't know the answer to that. I haven't actually. We'll see once people start getting their drops in a couple months. It'll be interesting to see what they resell for, like on eBay or something. I'm not sure what they're going to sell for sealed.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what that'll look like, but I do think that it's nice. It's a lot easier when you try to sell everything as a set than a bunch of singles, right? Because like like there are a few people, granted, that like look for specifically. Like, I'll look for random cards in a Mythic Edition set, or just like a single, like the Tameo and only the Tameo. So, I don't know. I like selling it as a set, though.
And I think keeping it sealed also would kind of like guarantee condition, which might help a little bit as far as reselling it too, compared to just like random singles. You never know, like, how beat up are they? And some people are skeptical of that. So if you keep it sealed, people know they're as mint as they can be, at least.
Yep.
Anyway, I think that is the end of our fish mail. So thank you so much to everyone who sent in questions. And if you want your own question considered for next week, hashtag it MTD Fish Mail. Send it to us. We'd love to answer it for you. And I believe that brings us to the end of episode 253 of the MTG Goldfish podcast. So Richard should be back next week. Crim, thanks for hanging out. Thanks to everyone for listening. And thanks to Spikes Academy for supporting the show. Make sure to check out their merch store, spikesacademy.myshopify.com. And today for Cyber Monday, 20% discount on some really cool shirts and hoodies. So thank you to them as well. Anyway, on that note, I think it brings us to the end. We'll be back next week to talk about Mythic Championship 7, whatever else happened in the world of Magic. So until then, this is the crew signing out.